What's up, everybody? Soul here with another Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles video, and today we're asking the big question: did it succeed or not? Were the sales good or were they bad? Were they average? This game has been absolutely amazing. I think everybody's enjoyed playing it. I've definitely seen some very interesting feedback, but for the most part, everybody has loved the voice acting and everything that they've included into the game to update it and make it shine. And yeah, it's been a phenomenal ride. However, that ride has been incredibly short and has come to a close faster than I expected. And I think most people feel the same. First time I beat this game as a kid, I put hours into it, didn't even realize what I was doing half the time. Yeah, I played this game tons and it felt like endless fun. Then I played it again as War of the Lions, and I realized that it really wasn't that big of a game then, but it feels shorter now than it's ever felt. And there's some growing resentment in the community over that, especially with them having cut the War of the Lions content. But should we expect that to be added? Or could we expect a sequel, a prequel, or some kind of a successor? Well, the sales apparently are what's going to indicate that, and so I'm going to look into that. We're going to speculate as to what's going on, and we're going to start by looking right here at the Steam database. So when we open up Steam database, we see that it has an overall 86% approval. That's fantastic. There are 1,600 people in the game as of right now. Now, the peak of this, of anyone playing this, is 2,300 people. That's not too bad. If you go back a month, you can see that it is on a steady decline as far as the number of people playing it. However, we're still not doing too bad. All-time peak is 21,000 people playing this game. That was October 1st. So our average is definitely gone down, but what do you expect? The game dropped, people beat it, and as you can see, in about 2 weeks' time, it dropped down. This is a weekend, right? But yeah. Basically, it took about 2 weeks for everybody to beat it, and it's been consistent since. So, it's a very, very short game. With that said, it still seems like people are enjoying it and have been playing it. It still has some consistent players out there. Shout out to you if you're one of them. But let's take a look at what they're saying over here. And so Video Game Insights is going to tell us that they have basically what we saw in Steam database, but they have sold 118,000 units. So I'm going to assume that's all physical copies, and that they've made $4.7 million in gross revenue with an 89% positive reviews, which we just saw. It's 86, but we don't know how they're getting their figures, so to speak. So really interesting stuff. 4.7 million gross revenue, huh? Well, let's compare that to something that Tactics is often compared to, and that's Tactics Ogre. And so Tactics Ogre, of course, came out November 10th, 2022. Has 73% positive reviews. It's less. It's an older game, so it has time to change, fluctuate, mind you. 4.6 million in gross revenue and 125,000 copies sold. So it has about 7,000 copies more sold, but this game is also roughly 3 years older. And yeah, 4.6 million in gross revenue. This game's already losing out. Tactics Ogre, that is already losing out to Tactics Ivalice Chronicles, and it has not been out for nearly as long. So overall, just based on this assessment, we could say it is a success. But is it enough of a success that it warrants another title, a sequel, if you will? Well, before we jump into that, let's look at another source to make sure that this information is accurate. And so here we are at Gamealytics. And so right now we can see that they're posting that 161,000 copies have been sold. But then, of course, over here in this parentheses, it shows between these two numbers, so it can fluctuate. They're not exactly sure. Gross revenue is at a median of 7.5 million. Okay. And so they're saying that the review scores are about 90%. People are happy. Not too bad. And then they have a nice little breakdown of what countries these people are playing from and whatnot. So if we click this, we can see a little bit more. But what I think is interesting is that I don't see anything about Japan in there. No Japan. That's crazy. Final Fantasy should sell more in Japan than probably anywhere else, arguably maybe America being the exception. But regardless, more than the UK, surely, right? But whatever. We're going to look forward. Maybe they just don't have that information. Regardless, 7.5 million in revenue. Using the same source, we're going to look at Tactics Ogre again. So Tactics Ogre has 8.3 million in revenue according to them, and 258,000 copies sold as their median. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Review scores at 74% versus the 90. Bear in mind, this has got a lot more time to stew over here. And then once again, I don't see Japan listed. Really interesting there. But America at 43, Canada at 10. Interesting. So, we can see that the difference is not that big. But Tactics Ogre is winning over here with their 3 years extra time, mind you, to cook, compared to Tactics over here on Game Analytics. But when you look over here at Video Game Insights, you can see sort of sensor tower, mind you. You can see right here 4.7 through them, 4.6 for Tactics Ogre. Needless to say, both sites are saying that they are close. It's not too far off. That's not too bad. That's comparing like for like. If we wander off like for like, let's look at someone within the same game within the same franchise that had a recent release as a brand new title, and that is Final Fantasy 16. So we can see here through Sensor Tower, Video Game Insights, this game has a 29.4 million gross revenue with 787,000 copies sold and a 79% positive review. So, and this game has got a year on Tactics, Ivalice Chronicles. But that is a much larger margin, beating it out by over 20 million. More than that, 25 million. So, but they put a lot more into the game. They definitely built it up from the ground up. New battle system mechanics, some great cinematics, really peak stuff. A lot could be argued went into the development of the game and the cost, even though they did reuse some assets from Final Fantasy like 14 and whatnot. Regardless, it's there. Similarly, we're going to jump over to Game Analytics, where they list that Tactics has 7.5 million in revenue. We're going to look at Final Fantasy 16, and they say they have 24.8 million in revenue, which is pretty consistent with what they're saying over here. Very, very close. So, 24.8 million in revenue, 79% approval, and yeah, 631,000 copies sold. Interesting. So, the big question is, what is the point of looking at that? Well, this is a brand new title. And arguably, Final Fantasy XVI did not do as well as other Final Fantasies. I'm going to pull up one more example to drive that point home. We're going to compare it to Final Fantasy 15, which is right here. Windows Edition is what it is titled. Regardless, this game, $34, comes in with 2.4 million copies sold, 55.7 million in gross revenue, and an overall approval rating of 83%. And yeah, that says it all. 55.7 million in revenue. Mind you, this is a game that originally was released on console, not PC. And then now this is the Windows edition they're specifically looking at. Regardless, really interesting stuff. A lot of money apparently going into play right here. But they've also had years to sell the product at 7 years shelf life. But will Final Fantasy Tactics get that kind of exposure? It's a niche game. What is their goal? Surely it's not to get 55 million, which is what they're capable of getting. Final Fantasy 16 certainly isn't going near that as of right now. Mind you, it's got time. It's not 7 years on the shelf, but it certainly doesn't seem like it's got that number coming. There's no telling, honestly. Honestly, there's no telling. I could be completely wrong. What is the bar for success? At what point do we get a sequel? What was the development cost of Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles? I don't know. Where is Square Enix is the bigger question. Are they coming? Are they going to give us some insights and some information? I think the community really wants to know. And they have hinted and teased that they might do it, that this is the way to do it, if they can just prove to investors it's successful. So did we meet that? What does that mean? It's tough. We don't really have much insights. And when you look up Final Fantasy or Square Enix and try to see anything that's going on in their world, the most recent news you have is that they're mass layoffs after share plans to have AI handle 70% of its quality assurance and debugging soon. Now, is that accurate? I don't know. That's what this article, which I'll have linked in the description, is suggesting. But is that what's actually happening? AI's coming in, layoffs. It's never a good look. But does that mean there's trouble in the company? Does that mean that Square Enix is suffering in some way? I don't know. Usually when a company re-releases, that's just my opinion, my observation, that indicates they're not doing too well. Bethesda, Fallout 4, Skyrim. But regardless, that is usually what it means. My fingers are crossed, and I am hopeful that we are going to get some kind of an insight as to Final Fantasy doing well. When you take a look at the chart, which we have right here, thank you to the website Circana, we can see right here that within the month of October, or September is what it quotes, Final Fantasy Tactics was 9th on the list of top sellers, outselling Metal Gear Solid Delta. So that's a good sign, right? That's a good look. Surely it's going to be doing well. It lost to the likes of like Helldivers 2, which has been out for a while. And then Madden, that's crazy. Ghosts of Yotai, there's been some controversy over that, right? But regardless, this is not a bad look. 9th in the totem. Pretty good stuff overall. When you pull up the Nintendo Switch specifically, you see that it needed to chart all the way up to number 2 for sales for that period. That's not bad at all. That's really good. Is that because it's during a dead period? I mean, top on the list for them is Hogwarts Legacy, which has not been out for too long, right? I mean, it's been out for a long time, right? And yeah, really interesting to see that there. Then when you jump over to PC sales specifically, we see that it makes 5th on the chart, which is pretty good there for PC sales. Behind Digimon Storytime Strangers, Borderlands 4, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. That's interesting, and I'm not confident that's a good look, but 5th on the chart is a good look, so interesting stuff there. There's a lot of uncertainty, and unfortunately, everything that we're looking at doesn't lead me to believe that we can be confident that they've done well. What we really need is for Square Enix to step up and to say something. Let us know, because we're eager. Bear in mind, the game's only been out for a month, but we are wanting to know. It was arguably a quick release where they put in, I don't want to say minimal effort, because the voice acting and some of the polish that they added to the game was phenomenal. But it certainly couldn't have been too expensive. And so the efforts that they put into it, hopefully, certainly weren't too expensive, and they've made a good amount of money off this on the front end and the immediate. And I'm hopeful that it's enough that they're going to come out with some more information on a sequel or some kind of a continuation of the franchise of Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics, especially with storytelling done in this way with such impeccable voice acting. I'm praying that we get that. Only a month, but I feel like if they had done really well, they'd be boasting about it. I don't know that is for sure, though. That is what limited information we have on Final Fantasy Tactics: Ivalice Chronicles, and it is not clear whether it is done well financially, especially well enough to warrant more. Where everybody's holding out and hoping they get DLC, everybody's wanting to get more content for the game, but we have to keep waiting, keeping our fingers and toes crossed. I do think, and I do want to go back and kind of add this in hindsight, if the original release included the War of the Lions content, it would have done better. They cut that, and that hurt them. I see countless comments on different sites, on different forums, and even in our own comments here on this channel, where people are simply stating, I refuse to pay full price for a game that has less than a previous version. And I don't think they're wrong. It might have been an artistic choice by the development team, the devs, the creators, but it was a painful one. They're suffering because of that choice. They could have done better and would be doing better if they had implemented that content. If they come back now and add it, I think more people would celebrate it and be happy about it than they would be upset, and it would be to their benefit. And surely it doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort. Something that might be as simple as a few matches, some DLC, PvP. Oh my goodness, it's on Steam. It doesn't have online content. It's crazy to me, but that's fine. I can deal with that. Just add those extra missions, Agrius's birthday, and so on and so forth, and let's see what happens. Charge everybody $10, $15, $20, whatever it is, and see the money flow, because people want it. People absolutely want it. They're looking for more content. I'm looking for more content. I stumbled into the ending of the game. I didn't even mean to get there as fast as I did. We're talking about hurt feelings, y'all. It made me sad that I was there already. So, I digress. Hopefully, we can get some indication soon. Hopefully, this gives us some insight. I really want to hear from all of y'all, especially anybody who happens to work in the gaming industry that has good knowledge on these things. Please speak up down in the comments below and let us know. Is this good insight? Does this look promising? Does this look bad? Does it look like there is potential for investors to want to get behind some kind of a continuation of this story? I'm eager to see this conversation unfold, so please make sure you jump in and take a part in that. And yeah, with that said, huge shout out and thank you to my soldiers. I deeply appreciate you. You guys and gals make the difference. Keep the content flowing. Keep the lights on for me, so I'm really grateful. Make sure you check out the links down below if you want to support and join the cause yourself. Also, there's a link for our Discord where we talk all things Final Fantasy and then some. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.